Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone to today's class for the first intermediate grade. Our textbook is Super Goal 1 and today we will cover the third unit that is called What is that? And today we're going to cover the grammar. This lesson will be presented by me, teacher Mazin Harbi, and the sign language by Mr. Saleh Al-Ujan. So let's begin. Our objectives in today's lesson, we hope that at the end of this lesson you will be able to use the demonstrative pronouns and also use imperatives and use indefinite articles. Before we do this, let's make quick revision on our last lesson. Last lesson we talked about a museum, and also we talked about what we expect when we go to a museum tour. We said that when you go to any museum, you usually will see a tour guide who will welcome you first and also give you different instructions that you need to follow while you are walking inside the museum. And also, we get to know some of the old objects that were seen or presented in the museum. And we agreed that the old objects that are no longer used usually kept in a museum just for people to go to visit this museum for entertaining and also to buy from a gift shop souvenirs from that museum. So these were the old objects that we read from last lesson. We have so many different objects. And also we talked about new terms like souvenirs. We said that souvenirs is something that you buy or you keep just to help you remember a story or a place or any special event. And we gave so many examples about the kind or the type of souvenirs we can buy from a gift shop. We said that we can buy posters, lamps, sculptures, tote bags, and also keychains, toys, a pen, a notebook, or small books, and so on. So, for our today's lesson, I would like you please to open your books on page 20. I would like you please to open your books on page 20. On page 20, we're going to talk about the demonstrative pronouns like this, that, these, and those. So we use the demonstrative pronoun in the place of a noun just to point to objects. So we use these pronouns just to point at objects. So for example, we use this or these for things that are near you, and we use that or those for things that are far from you. So we use these pronouns just for pointing at different objects. And if these objects were near, we will use this or these. And the objects were far, then we use that or those. So, but when can we use this or when can we use this? Let's explain it here in this table. So, if we have a singular object or one object and that is near, then in this case we would use this. If we have only one object and it is near, then we can use this. For example, this is a screen. It's very near. And if we have a singular object, it means one object and it's very far, then we can use that. For example, that is a pointer, so it's not near me, it is far. And since it's only one object, we would use that. As for plural, it means more than one object. If it's near, then we would say these. These are keychains, for example. And if we have more than one object and it's far, we would use those. Those are keychains. And here we're going to have some illustration just to help you recognize the difference. So, this photo, for example, so the apple is very near. The apple is very near. So in this case, we would say this is an apple. This is an apple. Why we said this? Because it's very near. because it's very near. But if the apple is very far, as you can see here, it's very far, then in this case we would say that. That is an apple. That is an apple. So again, if we have one object and it's very near, we would say this. This is an apple. And if we have one object that is far, then we would say that is an apple. That is an apple. So this is for only singular objects. Let's talk about different objects or a group of objects. Like here, for example, here we have 4 apples. And since they are near, we would say these are apples. These are apples. And if these apples were far, we would say those are apples. Those are apples. So if we have different objects, more than one, and if they are very near, we would say these. And if these objects were far, we would say those. Those are apples, and these are apples. Now, this is regarding apples. Let's read more examples about this and that. So, for example, this school is near to my house. This, he is pointing, this school is near to my house. And he also pointing at the park and says, that park is far away from my house. That park is far away from my house. Another example. I want to buy this goldfish. I want to buy this goldfish. So the goldfish here, it must be very near. So this is why we use this. And look at that bird in the sky. Look at that bird in the sky. And here we use that because the bird is very far and he is in this, it is in the sky. Let's continue. These chairs in my class are red. These chairs. And here we use these because the chairs are very near. These chairs. And those chairs in the other class are blue. Those chairs in the other class, it means that they are far. They are not near. And because they are far, we use those. And finally, I don't like these flowers in my room. I don't like these flowers in my room. So he's talking about flowers that in his room, which is near to him. And also, I like those trees in the park. I like those trees in the park. So here he's pointing at trees in the park, which is far away from him. So now we know when can we use this or that, and also when can we use these or those. Another important thing here to learn from these examples is that we can use these whether in the beginning of the sentence. We can use the demonstrative pronouns in the beginning of the sentence, as you can see here, or we can use them in the middle of the sentences. The most important thing here is that we need to make sure. If we're talking about a singular object that is near to us, we would say this. And if it's far, we would say that. And if we're talking about more than one object, and it's near to us, we would say these. And if it's very far, we would say those. This is very important thing to remember. Now, the other thing we have for today, which is imperative. And usually we use imperative just to give a command or an order or instructions. And just to make it more polite, we usually add to it please. So imperatives are instructions or words just we usually give to people in order for them to follow. So for example, one example of the affirmative imperative, which is when we say sit down. Sit down. This is imperative. And if we want to make it more polite, we can add to it please. Please sit down. Please sit down. Also, come in. Come in. This is also imperative. And if we want to make it more polite, we would say, please come in. Please come in. This is regarding the imperatives that do not have any negative words. So let's here talk about the examples when we have in the negative form. When we say don't sit down. Don't sit down. This is an example of imperative. And if we want to make it more polite, we would say, please don't sit down. Please don't sit down. Also, don't come in. Don't come in. This is imperative. And if we want to make it more polite, we would say, please don't come in. So these are examples about the imperatives, and not only for command or giving an order or an instruction. We can also use imperative just to give advice. For example here, buy those posters, they are nice. Buy those posters. So this is not a command, it's not an instruction, or it's not an order, it is an advice. Buy those posters. Also, go out, the weather is good. Go out. This is an imperative, and we use it just to give an advice. So in the negative form, we can have imperatives just for giving an advice. For example, don't buy that painting, it's strange. Don't buy that painting, it's strange. Or don't go out, it's very hot today. So now we learn that we usually use imperative just for two options. The first one is to give an instruction or to give an order, or also to give a command. And the other one, we use it just to give advices. And also, it's very important that we keep in our mind that we should add please just to make it more polite. So now I would like you please to go to the following exercise, which is I would like you to work with a partner, ask and answer, use this or that or these or those. So on your books on page 20, I would like to have a look at the pictures you can see in front of you. For example, picture number 1. And when you have a look at this picture, then we can, me and you, make questions and also answers based on this picture. So for example, if you have a look at the picture number 1, we can come up with a question like this. What are those? Because we're talking about objects that are not near. They are very far. So this is why we used those. What are those? And the answer would be, as we can see, they are paintings. They are paintings. So this is regarding picture number 1 on your books on page 20. Now, let's move on to picture number 2. So have a look at picture number 2. What is the question that we can make out of this picture? And remember, if it's singular and is near, we would say, what is this? If it's singular and far, we would say, what is that? And if it's more than a group of objects and near, we would say, what are these? And if they are very far, we would say, what are those? So, picture number 2, what do you think? The question will be, what is this? Because it's a singular object and it's very near. So, what is this? The answer will be, it's a sculpture. It's a sculpture. Let's move on now to picture number 3. So have a look at picture number 3 and come up with a question. Again, as we did with the first picture and the second picture. So in this case, the question will be, what is that? What is that? Because it's singular and it's very far. The answer will be, it's an airplane. It's an airplane. So now we did answer the first three pictures. Let's move on to continue the other three. Number 4. So have a look at picture number 4 and tell me what is the appropriate question that we should ask here, which is, what are these? We're talking about different objects that are very near. What are these? They are cameras. They are cameras. And number 5, question number 5, what is that? It's a bicycle. It's a bicycle. Now, let's move on to the last picture, which is picture number 6. So, have a look at the picture and tell me what is the proper question to ask here, which is, what are these? So here we're talking about different objects that are near. What are these? And the answer will be, they are headphones. They are headphones. So now we did answer the first exercise. We came up with questions based on the pictures that we can see, and also we learned the difference between this and these and that and those. So as an extra exercise, you can use this with either a relative or a family member or a classmate or a friend. Just point at the things that's around your house and make questions like these. If that thing or that object is near, you can ask by saying, what is this? Or what are these? And if that thing is very far, you can say, what is that and what are those? So just go around your house and come up with questions like this, just to help you learn more about the demonstrative pronouns. Now, I would like you please to turn to page 21. I would like you please to turn to page 21. Now, here in this page, we have another exercise, which is about drawing. So start to draw an object and ask a partner just to guess what you are drawing. So imagine that if you are drawing something, and if you didn't finish the drawing, while you're drawing, just ask a partner to guess what the drawing is. And you can make it more tricky, just to start with circles and with squares before you finish your drawing. So as we can see here in this example, here we have two people. One of them was drawing circles, as you can see here. So when he asked his partner by saying, what is this? He says, it's a bike. So he said, it's not a bike, it is an orange. So in the beginning, he thought that he was, as you can see here, he was drawing a bicycle. But when he finished, he discovered that he was painting an orange. So you can you can do the same. You can draw or start your drawing by drawing a circle or squares or triangle, and ask your partner to guess what you are drawing. You'll see it a very fun exercise. Now, as for the last exercise that we have for today, which is exercise C, match the imperatives with the pictures and write the letters in the blanks. So here we have different imperatives, and we need to match each imperative with the size we can see here. So let's read the imperatives first. So the first one is pay here. The second one, don't take photographs. The third one, don't use cell phones. And the fourth one, don't touch. So these are the imperatives, and these are the pictures that we need to match with each proper imperative. So let's start with the first picture here. What do you think the first picture here, or the imperative that matches the first picture here? So here we have a camera with a red circle and a cross as well. So what do you think the proper imperative here? Excellent, which is B, don't take photographs. So immediately when we go to a museum or any place and when we see this sign, it means don't take photographs. Let's move on to the other sign. So here we have a phone, a smartphone with a red cross. So what does this sign mean? Excellent, which is C, don't use cell phones. Don't use cell phones, whether to call or to message or even to take photographs. Don't use cell phones. Let's move on to 3. Here we have a hand with circled in red and also crossed. So what do you mean by this one? Excellent, it would be the last one, don't touch. In a museum, for example, you will see a very precious and valuable things, especially if they are old. So you are not allowed to touch any, just to not damage these objects. So the last sign here, we can see a cashier register in a circle. What do you think this means? Of course, it means A, pay here. So these are the answers of the last exercise. We have 4 different imperatives that matches all of these signs. Now, before we finish, I would like you please to check your workbook on page 196 and 197, just for more practice with the grammar of this unit. So we talk about the demonstrative pronouns, and also we talk about imperatives. So it's very important that we do a bit more exercises about this, just to help us learn more about them and also to remember them. And now, we have reached the end of our lesson. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.